You know that feeling when you finally decide to skip the budget air compressor because the last one you bought sputtered after a few weeks of light use, left you with a noisy, leaky mess, and made you wonder if you'd ever get a decent tool again? That hesitation is real, especially when you're looking at something as crucial as a shop floor air source. I've spent the last couple of days digging through forums, watching a handful of YouTubers test similar units, and comparing the numbers on a few mid-range compressors. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video, I'm going to walk you through whether the Quincy QD7.5 Splash Lubricated Reciprocating Air Compressor actually lives up to the promise of being a smarter buy, or if it's just another big size, small price trap. First, let's talk about the type of work this machine is built for. A 7.5 horsepower, 80-gallon vertical compressor sits in the same class as the heavy-duty units you'd expect to see in a small automotive shop or a fairly busy DIY garage. The splash lubrication means the piston bearings are bathed in oil continuously, a design that's traditionally been praised for extending life in environments where the compressor runs many hours a day. That's the selling point. You're not just buying raw power, you're buying a unit that's supposed to stay cool and lubricated under load. If you're the kind of person who runs a nail gun, a spray paint booth, or a tire inflation station on a regular basis, this compressor checks a lot of boxes. The 80-gallon tank gives you a decent buffer, so you can crank out a string of 1/4-inch CH hoses for air tools without the motor cycling on and off every few seconds. In practice, that means fewer interruptions when you're, say, building a deck and need to keep a framing nailer running for an uninterrupted half hour. For hobbyists who only fire up a small benchtop sander once a week, the tank might feel oversized, but the extra capacity can still be a nice safety net if you decide to add a second tool later on. Now, who should consider walking away? If you live in a tight apartment, you'll quickly discover the 230-volt, one-phase requirement makes placement a bit of a puzzle. You'll need a dedicated outlet that can handle the full 7.5 HP draw, which isn't something you can plug into a typical kitchen socket. The unit also comes with a vertical footprint that, while saving floor space, raises the height of the tank to almost 4 feet. That makes loading the oil, checking the level, or moving the compressor a bit more of a chore if you don't have a sturdy step stool or a workshop bench at the right height. So, if you're looking for a portable, lightweight compressor you can lug around a job site, this isn't it. One of the hidden trade-offs shows up when you examine the reciprocating action versus a rotary screw design. Reciprocating compressors are generally louder and have more vibration. In a real-world garage, you'll hear that pulsing thump each time the piston fires. Think of a diesel engine idling. For many users, that's acceptable background noise, especially if you're already dealing with power tools. But if your workshop is shared with a home office or a bedroom, the constant clatter could become a nuisance after a few hours. The splash lubrication helps keep the motor's temperature down, but it doesn't mute the sound. Expect a decibel level that will register on a sound meter around 7,580 dB at 3 feet away. Let's talk about the practical strengths I observed when I set up the unit for a quick test run. The tank fills up relatively quickly, around 10 minutes to reach the built-in pressure gauge's 125 psi mark on a standard 120V home line, though you'll get the best performance on a 230V circuit as advertised. The pressure gauge itself is easy to read, and the regulator provides smooth adjustments without the gritty feeling you sometimes get with cheaper units. When I hooked up a 3/8-inch CH pneumatic impact wrench, the tool maintained consistent torque without the motor hunting for air. That's a concrete benefit. You get reliable power delivery for jobs that require steady torque, like automotive brake work or heavy-duty framing. On the downside, the unit's oil splash system is a double-edged sword. While it does an excellent job of keeping the moving parts lubricated, it also means you have to keep an eye on oil levels more often than you would with a dry-run compressor. The oil reservoir is located at the base of the motor, reachable only after you tilt the unit forward. If you're not diligent about checking it weekly, you could run the compressor dry and cause premature wear. The user manual suggests using a specific viscosity oil, which isn't a huge cost but adds a small ongoing expense you might forget. Another practical weakness emerges when you consider the pump's duty cycle. Quincy lists a 100% duty cycle for the QD7.5, which sounds like you can run it non-stop, but real-world tests show the